Hey everybody, so it's really cool. I think one of the themes of this morning is something that I've felt too, is what some people have said to me, which is, BR, you don't seem like you were in the Army. And for me, that's probably because, well, these days I put on a little more weight, so they're probably wondering, like, why aren't you still in shape like you were in the military? But while I was in, it was probably because I had some form of this beard for 5 out of the 8 years that I was in. I had some sort of spikier, longer hair. I didn't wear a uniform for almost my entire Army career. But it's also, they're probably saying that because I came from a totally different world. I'm a musician. I was a performing artist my whole life. I graduated from the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill with a music degree. I was a musical theater nerd. I was an opera singer and graduated in 2001 and was trying to figure out what to do with that lucrative degree. And was in DC, and next thing you know, 9/11 happens. And having grown up as a missionary kid in Taiwan, where from the age of 5 years old, little blue-eyed BR was standing on stage helping my father, who was a pastor, raise money to go overseas. Having lived in the third culture, I still speak Mandarin. I was like, this is the opportunity for me to do something bigger than myself. And that's what I did. So despite having a college degree, I enlisted to be a Mandarin linguist. And in all of the Army's logic, they said, well, because you can speak Mandarin, we want you to learn Arabic. So I did. I spent 2 years in Monterey, California, and ended up spending about 5 years in the Joint Special Operations Command as a special operator. You know, 7 years ago, if you Googled the term veteran artist, you would have gotten something like, veteran filmmaker and artist Martin Scorsese makes a new movie. And that's because he's back, right? He's doing it again. He's been there, done that, and he's gonna grace us again with his amazing talent. If you do that today, as you leave, and I challenge you to do it, you'll see something very different. The Veteran Artist Program, the organization that I founded, will certainly be at the top of that search result. But you'll also see names like Justine's and Maurice's and veterans who are artists, who are putting these worlds together, who are leaders, and who are now doing it as a career. I don't tell this story a lot, but I figured I'd tell you guys this morning in this safe audience of that will eventually be showed to thousands of people. I spent most of my time in Pakistan. I have a very non-traditional military experience. I deployed 3 times to that area of operation, and there was this one time we were traveling through a little small tribal village in the federally administered tribal areas of Pakistan. And I had with me what you might imagine a soldier would carry, even though I wasn't in uniform. I had an M4, I had a Glock 19, and I had a baby Martin. Martin is a guitar, and the baby Martin just happens to be about the size of an M4, so you could easily carry it on a helicopter. So we got stopped in this small little town, and we walked in, we were waiting for the next transport out, and there was a room full of Pakistani helicopter pilots. And it's hard to imagine for us here, but in that area of the world, you're just always in a fight. You're always on, you're ready to go. And in Pakistan, in this case, we were just waiting for something to do, an operation to go on. So I'm sitting there, and what else do you do when you're sitting around with a bunch of other men in Pakistan, but pull out your guitar and play Michael Bublé's Home. And as you know, I'm a singer, so I start to sing. And this was the first time in my military career I remember putting these two together. So I start to play, and it was to kill the time, but what happened was this amazing connection with these men, meaning that they were deployed. They were there for 6 months. If you don't know the song, it's about going home. It's about missing home, about wanting to go back. It was such an impactful experience that 2 months later, I get a little chirp on my little handheld radio deep into the Pakistan tribal area, and this helicopter pilot says, hey, I want those lyrics. So he flies in, I go out, having printed off the lyrics on a white sheet of paper, and I hand it to him as he lands and then takes off. And that was the moment where I realized that my experience of being in the arts my whole life and having now been in the military weren't necessarily mutually exclusive, and they didn't have to be. So when I got out, I started the Veteran Artist Program. This was in 2009. And the mission is to foster, promote, and encourage veterans in the arts. And we do that across multiple disciplines, including music. It's a lot about my story, but what's so amazing that other people, other veterans, are now owning it. And certainly if I can own sitting there at 24,000 feet, about to jump out with a bunch of my buddies, and then tell them that, oh, by the way, I'm an opera singer, that somebody else can do it too. So what I want to leave you with are really the three things that sort of motivate me, that I'm about when it comes to a veteran artist. The first is comfort. Of course, the arts are therapeutic, and it's a form of expression. It's an opportunity to tell your story. But it's also about a career. And we shouldn't forget that veterans come home, and certainly everyone listening today understands that veterans deserve and have the right and should be able to come home to the careers and jobs that they want to take on. But finally, it's culture. What does it mean to the American culture to have the veteran voice part of it? So often, we think about veterans in the arts as veteran or military content, as you should be producing that story about your time in Iraq. And certainly that's a great place to start. But what about education? And what about immigration? And what about this next political season that comes up? Those are the topics that veterans have the unique voice to talk about and have the experience that can make a difference as we move forward. So what I always tell people is the arts made me a better soldier, and my military experience has now made me a better creative professional. My name is B.R. McDonald, and I am a U.S. Army veteran.